pretty interesting article here by Ali Abumina at the Electronic Intifada. Highly recommend this site and Ali's work. In particular, wait, I thought I clicked on it. No, here we go. Hamas traps Ilhan Omar for equating resistance with Israeli war crimes. I actually saw this this particular thing that Hamas put out, kind of rebuking Ilhan Omar, and it just really shows how much power the Israeli lobby, Zionism, has, and the role they play in U.S. politics with, this pretty, frankly, mild criticism by Ilhan Omar. And again, she is basically one of the only people in Congress or in Senate willing to level this type of moderate critique, and even this she has to retract because of this complete ridiculous far right wing pressure that she receives from the Israeli lobby, and including a lot of people in the Democratic Party, frankly. The Palestinian resistance org Hamas has hit back at U.S. Congresswoman Ilhan Omar after she accused the group of crimes against humanity, denounced it as terrorists, and praised Israel as democratic. And again, the comparison she made, the only group responsible for crimes against humanity would be the state of Israel and the U.S. empire, obviously, who allows Israel to commit those crimes against humanity with the massive amount of military aid and unconditional support that we give the Israeli state. Omar has been under intense attack for days by Democratic and Republican lawmakers over her questioning of Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. Again, she asked a very, mild question about what is the Biden administration going to do. Do they support the International Criminal Court looking into Israeli war crimes? During a congressional hearing on Monday, Omar took Blinken to task for Americans' opposition to International Criminal Court investigation to alleged crimes. And again, they were going to invest. This is how completely distorted this is. The ICC, if they were given permission, they would investigate potential crimes committed by Israel as well as Hamas in the West Bank and Gaza by the U.S. and the U.S. and Taliban in Afghanistan. We must have the same level of accountability and justice for all victims of crimes against humanity. We have seen unthinkable atrocities committed by the U.S., Hamas, Israel, Afghanistan, and the Taliban. But again, the biggest purveyor of death, destruction, terrorism, whether it's economic or traditional warfare, is the United States empire, by far and away. But in exchange with Blinken, Omar claimed that Hamas had committed atrocities and crimes against humanity. I mean, she's trying to maybe temper her critique there, not trying to seem too radical or extreme, even though what she was saying, is completely factual, except for the part, what are these crimes against humanity that Hamas, or frankly, even the Taliban to a lesser extent, have caused. Accusations that do not withstand a fact-based analysis of the recent escalation of violence. Very peculiar. Omar's remarks were very peculiar. Dr. Bassem Naim, director of Hamas's International Relations Office, said on Saturday. Naim said Hamas, quote, this is the thing I said previously, highly appreciates Omar's stance in support of justice and the rights of the oppressed around the world. Foremost among them is the right of the Palestinian people, end quote. However, he added, it is acceptable like such an, this is the part I take offense with her tweet, her position on this. Such an unfair comparison which contradicts basic norms of justice and international law. Again, Hamas is a resistance group. They are resisting the Israeli colonization and occupation of Palestinian lands. They are a resistance group. by any means necessary. That is actually guaranteed to them under international law. So there's the doctor's tweet. Hamas admonished Omar for equating the victim and the executioner by yes, the resistance, as I was pointing out, the resistance of the Palestinian people, the Israeli crimes in Palestine, and the U.S. aggression in Afghanistan on an equal, yes, complete, yes, 100%, like, on an equal footing. Neem said that Palestinians have the right to resist the Israeli occupation 100%, just like I said, with all means possible, including armed resistance. He quoted Nelson Mandela's statement that it is always the oppressor, not the oppressed, who dictates the form of the struggle. The late Mandela led the African National Congress, the ANC, armed struggle against the apartheid regime in South Africa. Now almost universally viewed as a hero, yes, he was on an official list of terrorists until U.S. list of terrorists until as late as 2008. Neem asserted that for years Hamas has offered several initiatives to avoid civilian casualties, but all of these proposals were rejected by the Israeli occupation, which deliberately targeted civilians and civilian infrastructure. We've seen this happen just very recently, the attacking of that media building, of hospitals, roads, people's fucking homes, including like Ali Abu Mina, his like, we're just in sync with this including during Israel's 11-day intense bombardment of Gaza last month. This is likely a reference to the long-standing Hamas proposal for long-term truce that Israel has rejected. The deliberate and brutal targeting of Palestinian civilians during this aggression was intended to inflict a heavy cost on the Gazan population and bid to break the Palestinians' will and their support of the Palestinian resistance. If anything, it's only solidified that, as well as support, solidarity from, around the world, as more and more people are being, exposed to the continued crimes that the Israeli government continues to perpetrate. Hamas, according to Neem's statement, welcomed the formation of all international investigation commission, express its readiness, cooperate with them for the sake of achieving justice and holding the perpetrators accountable. In contrast, Israel habitually rejects international investigations of its actions and blocks investigation for entering all the territories under its control. And again, the U.S. fucking supports this all the way and obstructs as much as possible in support of Israel and these just disgusting acts that the Israeli government continues to perpetrate against the Palestinians. Smoothie's good. Omar caves to pressure. Yeah, Omar came under a storm of protests, including racist and bigoted. Again, her critique was very, frankly, mild in nature, and yet she's getting death threats, all types of racist remarks, just this disgusting behavior leveled at her for this very mild and, frankly, somewhat misdirected tweet, as me and Ali Abu Mina pointed out. From Israel supporters and white supremacist American nationalists who believe that colonial and imperial violence is morally justified while Palestinian armed struggle is terrorism. Every time I speak out on human rights, I am inundated with death threats. Here is one we just got. Jesus. She's not even a fucking... these people are so fucking, stupid. They don't even know what fucking communism is. She's not a communist. You fucking racist, Zionist piece of shit. Omar caved under apparent pressure from the leadership of the Democratic Party. Yes. Thursday, she issued a clarification asserting that the exchanges with Blinken days earlier was about accountability for specific incidents regarding those ICC cases, not a moral comparison between Hamas and the Taliban in the U.S. and it. Oh my God. Again, in my eyes, Hamas has so much more credibility than the United States empire and the Zionist Israeli government. I was in no way equating terrorist orgs. Look, the two terrorist orgs, for sure here, the fucking United States and Israel. and I'm not sure where exactly on the spectrum. I mean, frankly, like the Taliban probably could be seen as a resistance organization against U.S. occupation in their fucking country. And obviously, I don't agree with their, retrograde views or maybe how they view or treat, women or other vulnerable and marginalized groups. But the fact the United States, the U.S. empire, has been in that country since 2001, the terrorist group there is the occupying force, the U.S. So she's definitely off base. The terrorist organizations here are the United States empire and the Israeli government. With well-established judicial systems, yes, that allow the United States and Israel to commit unspeakable crimes. That's so fucking democratic. Not content with accusing Palestinians of atrocities and crimes against humanity against the state occupying and colonizing their land, Omar threw the label terrorist, reproducing and reinforcing decades-old Israeli propaganda. Again, this is basically one of the more so-called progressive members of Congress, and she is labeling this Palestinian resistance org as a fucking terrorist group. This is the, same type of logic and behavior that, when people were fighting against apartheid in South Africa, the ANC and Nelson Mandela would have been labeled as terrorists as well and face this type of fucking scrutiny from those in power. Meanwhile, she appeared to be describing Israel as a democratic country, despite the recent findings by such mainstream groups as HRW and Israel Human Rights Group B'Tselem that Israel commits the crime of apartheid against the Palestinian people. Yes, very fucking democratic to have a apartheid state. Omar's decision to throw Palestinians on the bus appeared to satisfy House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. But again, they all voted for her, right? They all voted for Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House. What? The squad, Omar included, not fucking running a whole lot of resistance to this shit, are they? They just fucking, yep, sorry. Gonna backtrack this mild criticism as it was. Gotta keep these fucking right-wing fanatic pieces of shit, warmongers, happy. Pelosi, one of the most hardline supporters of Israel in the Dem Party, had rejected Omar's drawing false equivalence between democracy. I mean, Jesus Christ. How can anybody with a straight face, unless you're completely brainwashed and propagandized by corporate media, public education, etc., which unfortunately a fair number of people in the U.S. are, that the United States is a fucking democracy? I mean, for fuck's sake, it was founded on the genocide of the indigenous populations that were here and the enslavement of Africans, and founded on fucking white supremacy, and that still runs very deep. Huge amounts of inequality, race, especially among, racial lines. And I mean, you gotta be Jesus Christ. Oh my God. She claimed that such a comparison foments prejudice and undermines peace and security for... Oh my God, it's like these fucking politicians, just such pieces of shit. God, okay, I can't even read any more quotes from Pelosi. Let's get to some more Ali Abumina. Omar's rapid collapse in the face of pressure raises serious questions about the role of supposed supporters of Palestinian rights within the U.S. political system. The Minnesota Congresswoman, one of the first two Muslim women to be elected to Congress, along with Rashida Tlaib, has been using her rhetorical support for Palestinians to raise election campaign money. The racist attacks have also made her the center of advocacy by liberal and progressive groups, individuals who have rallied around her, many using the hashtag #IStandWithIlhan. Yes, I obviously stand with her, and she shouldn't be, attacked, especially in a racist and bigoted way. That fucking shit needs to be called out. But again, I think she should be criticized, critiqued for equating the United States and Israel as being democracies and calling Hamas a terrorist organization when they are a Palestinian fucking resistance organization. Palestinian American activist and human rights attorney Noura Erakat offered the congresswoman unqualified support in the face of the attacks. Omar insists on repping her constituents and refuses to be token. Erakat tweeted, "She came to slay. We must help her." But, I mean, she pretty much kind of backtracked off what, what she said. I stand with Ilhan. If not now, Ilhan Omar is being targeted about Israel. Would have been. So quite a few groups and individuals coming out in support of her against these attacks by Democrats, Republicans, other racist, white supremacist, Zionist defenders. Thus, the right-wing Democratic Party and Republican attacks on Omar succeed in shifting the attention away from accountability for Israel's massacres of Palestinians towards a narcissistic internal squabble among U.S. political figures and elites, in which the rejection and demonization of Palestinian resistance is taken as a given. At the same time, the damage done to Palestinians by Omar's comments echoing Israeli propaganda that resistance is terrorist is overlooked or excused because she is under attack from the right. Again, yes, that is the critique that needs to be happening. On point once again. Yeah. When the going gets tough, Ilhan Omar throws Palestinians under the terrorism bus. While she's being attacked by a racist, she defends herself by going tough on Palestinians and praising their killers. Yeah, that's the part I can't fucking stand with. That shit needs to be called out. Obviously, along with the racist and bigoted attack she is facing from the right, both within the Democratic Party, the Republican Party, and just these, racist, white supremacist, Zionist supporting individuals. Yes, I bet Blumenthal is a good take on this. It's important to stand against the racist smears of Ilhan Omar, but as she wilts in the face of pressure from the pro-war leadership of her party, even advances exceptionalist mythology about the U.S. and Israel democracy, I'm not sure what there's to stand with completely. What is she standing? She pretty much backtrack from the lukewarm criticism that she had, as it were. Palestinians have fought for decades against propaganda demonizing virtually any form of resistance as terrorist. That label is intended to shut down debate and analysis, disrupt solidarity, and provide justifications for Israel's regular colonial massacre of Palestinian civilians, which unfortunately continue to happen. For advocates of Palestinian rights to accept such rhetoric from a supposed ally sends a signal that any fundamental principle is a mere bargaining chip to be used in pursuit of illusory gains and alliances with members of the U.S. imperial establishment. Which obviously Omar is a member of. Smoothly so good. There can be no question that Omar deserves to be defended against the racist and anti-Muslim attacks and threats, just as President Obama deserved to be defended against such attacks from white supremacists who falsely claimed he was a Muslim to disparage him or question the country of his birth. The fact that Obama faced such attacks is no way excuse for his responsibility for openly pandering to this racism and anti-Muslim bigotry by committing war crimes while president. Similarly, one can take a principled stance against racist attacks on Omar, yes, as I've been arguing, now he's completely on point, while rejecting her anti-Palestinian comments aimed at appeasing Israel's insatiable American fanatics inside and outside her party. Yes, that is the big takeaway there. Again, link this article down below. Highly recommend the Electronic Intifada, especially Ali Abu Mina in particular. All power to the people. Like the video if you like the damn video. Peace. Much love.